Hey Chelsea,
Oh, hey Liz.
want to do some breath work?
Totally.
All right, I have this really cool way of doing something. Like, when you're feeling just intoxicated
Totally.
by the environment, like the people around you,
Yes.
everything that's happening in the world. So follow me. Inhale through your nose.
Yeah, I'm not doing that on camera. Welcome back, Lactators. Today we are hanging out with one of my favorite humans of all time, Miss Liz B. She is a Kundalini yoga teacher. She is a Reiki and pranic healing practitioner. On top of that, she's a death midwife, which is just so cool. And an alchemist of all things love. If you're new, go ahead and hit the subscribe button below and turn on the notifications so that you don't miss any of our content as it comes out. So we are going to get into some breath work today. I think we could all agree that being a new parent is hard and isolating and inundating, even in the best of times, but adding a pandemic and lockdown and an utter disassociation from the world to it, I can only imagine has been an even heavier burden to bear for many lactators out there. We wanted to get some tips from the master on ways that we can help bring our energy up, bring our fear and stress down, and rejuvenate a little bit while we do all the keeping the little people alive stuff.
Beautiful. First, I'd like to thank you for the opportunity to have this conversation. How wonderful. And then honor you, Mother, who chose this journey either consciously or unconsciously. One of the most creative endeavors that we are all going to have in our lives is to be a parent. So I honor you, I honor your children, and I honor the adventure. And you've probably noticed by this point that you're probably experiencing things that you've never imagined you were going to experience, and you're finding yourself in places and situations that can be just a little bit disconcerting, to say the least.
Yeah,
so
sure.
Breath work is one of the techniques in yoga that we use to rebalance our systems, because we're not taught how to maneuver our own bodies, right? We grow up and half the time we don't know what to do with our feelings. We don't know how to listen to our intuition. And so breath work is one of the tools, and I think one of the most basic tools, because you don't need any equipment, you don't need any fancy dressing, you don't need any special place to do it. So everybody has the power to come back to their essence through breath.
It's
right?
literally the force of life.
Yes.
It's how you function. So being able to not control, but to support it just makes you more capable of supporting yourself and your family.
Beautiful. And she just broke down the word Pranayama, which is breath work.
Right.
So pran is the first unit. So think of the essence. Prana being the life force, and ayama is the expansion of it, the management. So in yogic science, breath work is the science of breath and life force management. So imagine that within yourself, you have the capacity to fine tune and to tune into the frequency that you would like to express and bring out in the world. So we're not victims of our lives, we're actually powerful creators.
Beautiful. Let's do that. I mean, you made a person or multiple. I feel like
You got this.
breathing should be pretty simple. There's no contractions involved in this one.
No contractions.
So a very basic question for those who are maybe not familiar either with yoga and the breathing part of yoga, right? Because I think we're all familiar with the postures and the exercise of it. But these two things, those two parts are supposed to go together. So for those who haven't had sort of the introduction or practice in breathing, how can this be used, say, for a lactating parent, an overwhelmed, tired? What are the more practical applications for how breath work can be incorporated?
I love that. So if we're talking about bringing a system, which is our own systems, right? So we're a whole ecosystem. You as an individual, you, me, and we generate and operate in this other ecosystem that's a community, right? So we're going to focus in our own ecosystem and how to bring that to balance. So in yoga, we have a lot of asana, which is the movement part, combined with the breath work. So the breath guides the movement. So you see in a lot of classes, breathe in, downward facing dog, breathe out.
Right.
You know,
so there's a purpose to the way that that's done.
There is a purpose because through breath work, so think of breath work, if you're imagining, if you can close your eyes for a minute and imagine that you're actually, as you inhale, you're inhaling, you can put whatever color you'd like, that it's coloring your whole system, right? And as you exhale, so it's a giving and receiving process. You're bringing this life force in and you're taking it out back and you're giving it to the universe to be recycled into other materials. And so when I think about a lactating mother or a parent in general, especially in that first year, I would say our systems are still getting used to this new paradigm and this new way of being.
Sure.
For mothers specifically, your aura in yogic science is believed to be attached to your children's body for a while. And so you're not only dealing, and the aura would be your energetic body that kind of, expands out of your physical body. And so if you imagine that you're not only operating for yourself, but for another, that throws another layer.
Yeah.
That you have to also learn how to integrate. So the same way with breath and yoga, right? Putting those two things together, the movement, the breath, we're also using the breath to integrate a more balanced state of being.
So it's almost that, no one's good unless mom is good kind of situation, right? So that what you give to yourself and model for your children becomes part of their story and their process as well.
I love that because oftentimes, especially as we are mothering in the beginning, we're so embedded with that being and their survival depend on us that we forget sometimes that we have to put on our oxygen mask first. And so that's basic. And so breathwork is a powerful tool because we use it to rebalance our system, right? So regardless of you being a first-time mother, you being the mother of 2, 4, 3 children, you're going to find yourself in states where breath
you're a little
work,
frazzled.
it's going to come really handy. And as we talked about before, you don't need any special equipment. You don't need any fancy clothing.
You don't have to go anywhere.
You don't have to go to a yoga studio. It's you with yourself. So what we're doing is learning how to develop a relationship with oneself.
Right.
So you can be you, because that's the best gift you can give the world is you being yourself, because there's only one you, right? And also remembering that self-care is not selfish. It's actually a big priority that we often forget, especially being a mother.
Yes.
Because we have that survival instinct to attend to the kids first and to, take care of them. But also remember that when you take care of yourself, you're taking care of everybody around you. So it's sounds really basic, but I know being a mother, how hard it is at times to just remember that.
Yeah. It's a little daunting, I think, for many parents to hear about self-care because Instagram makes self-care look like manicures and spa days and yoga classes and hours to yourself. And for a lot of us, where even without the constraints of what's happening in the world right now, we don't necessarily have the resources to be away from our children for an hour or, finding or being able to go and do a spa day. It's maybe not in everyone's toolbox. Correct. So I'm excited to see what you can show us, because if these are things that we can do with a kid on the tit, that might be a helpful way to start sneaking self-care in. That self-care doesn't have to be a big event.
Absolutely.
But the more you do it, the more you become it, right? And that will sort of give you the opportunity to parent from a more conscious, balanced. Not to say that you won't have days where you want to throw. I mean, you're going to want to throw them out the window at least once a week. Don't do it. Call someone. But I think it helps to just give you the opportunity. It's also this idea that we resort to what is most practiced. So if we most
yes.
practice being in stress and anxiety and feeling like there's no release unless we can
Yes.
afford the therapist and the
Yes.
yoga class, we do sort of lose our sovereignty, we lose our power to be able to care for ourselves. And maybe it's hard for some of us to do that personally, but you're doing it for your kids, right? So if you want to take that tack, if that feels a little bit easier to move into this kind of work, then by all means do it. But your kids are going to do what you do, not what you say. And so showing them how you care for yourself and you scatter that throughout the day is going to, I think it's going to help. I know it's helped me. It continues to be something that I need check-ins about. We all do. Find your tribe. But it is a really useful thing to be able to sprinkle these things in when you're feeling most touched out, overwhelmed, exhausted. In that vein, I would like to hear maybe some ideas you have about maybe the top three biggest ughs of being a new parent. So
Stress.
What? Stress. Frustration, I think especially around lactation and breastfeeding, it's not for the faint of heart, and feeling frustrated with what you are experiencing. And then finally maybe think exhaustion. Anybody else out there tired?
Yeah.
Am I tired?
What? Anyone tired now? Remember something that I would like to point out here, because we tend to grow up thinking that we need to push certain feelings or situations away. So what we're doing actually with these techniques is we're having and developing a relationship with our stress, with our frustration, with our fear, with our exhaustion. Because when you invite that in, I'm a firm believer that the only way out is through.
Totally.
So we're not here trying to just move it somewhere where we can see it. We're actually saying, you know what, I'm feeling really exhausted right now. Just come over here, exhaustion, and let's work together so we can move into the next state of this unfolding.
All right, let's move through it.
Let's do it.
Where do we start, Mama Liz?
So do you want to do, let's start with stress, right?
Let's start with stress.
Okay, so
Yes.
very simple. And again, as Chelsea said so beautifully, you can do any of this with a child on your breast. If the child is somewhere else, that's great too. So don't hold us up to like, you have to do it with the child on your breast.
You could do it with the kid's foot in your face.
Yes.
You could do it
You
in
were
the car.
only gonna need your nose and your hands. That's all.
it. Yeah.
And for one of them, you actually don't even need your hands. So
Hello.
so we'll start with stress, right?
Okay.
And we're actually, why don't we practice? So
Okay.
I'll guide you through it.
Excellent.
And so you can be sitting anywhere you'd like. If you choose to be sitting on a chair, I recommend that both of your feet are flat on the ground, so you're actually grounding yourself while you're doing this. Or you can be sitting comfortably with your legs crossed or, straight somewhere. So just find a comfortable position. Now close your eyes and just see where you're at. And this doesn't have to take 10 minutes. It can take literally 10 seconds. Just recognizing your body where that stress is. So just see it, and then see if it has a shape or a certain texture, a color that you can visualize. Start like noticing how that stress feels in your body. And once you kind of identify that, you're breathing long and deep, you're gonna bring your right thumb and you're gonna block your right nostril. Yep, you're doing that. And you can put your other fingers pointing up so the energy is flowing. And just block it and breathe long and deep through your left nostril. So what we're doing here is we're activating a channel of energy in the body. So we have these channels that go, we have several other channels, but now we're focusing on 2 channels that go up your spine and they cross here on the level of your third eye, which I like calling your first eye. It's your soul eye. So right in between your brows, they cross there, and then they end here on your nostrils. We have the left and the right side, and what we're doing here is we're activating your left side, which is your Ida side, and that brings in a calming, moon soothing, cooling energy. So you're just breathing long and deep through that nostril, in and out through the nose. And You know, you can do this for as long as for as short as 30 seconds or as long as 3 minutes.
I feel like this would be a really good way to confuse your toddler when they're having a tantrum. And also bring your energy down to...
You can try different uses for it. And when you feel complete, you just take a deep inhale through that nostril, hold it for a brief moment, really, you know, reconfiguring that pattern, and then just release the breath, bring the hands down, and just notice how you feel versus how you were feeling before you begin.
That is very effective.
It's simple.
Yeah.
And that's what we want. It's simple, easy, practical, because a lot of times, as you were saying, you don't have the resources in your toolbox, that being time, that being exclusive, like time for yourself. So you can do this in the midst of the day, you know.
And that's the one that we would focus if you're feeling heightened stress. That's the one to kind of just take a second. And you can do it as often as you need.
As often as you need. There are no contraindications to this. So, you know, you can just sit back and consciously, I think that I'd like to bring an important point that we oftentimes forget. You can ritualize your life. And so you don't need to go to a yoga studio, but you can choose to center yourself for a moment and just, you know, yoga becomes your life in that sense. And so you can just say, you know what, I'm just going to take 3 minutes to myself and I'm going to do a little prayer, whatever, you know, sounds ritualistic to you.
Right.
So we can be infusing our lives with this magic that we oftentimes feel like it's outside of us.
Or it requires a whole lot of space and time and setup, and maybe we don't all have the ability to meditate for 20 minutes or an hour, but you can do this and scatter it when you're feeling it.
Yes, and you can say, this is going to be my breathwork meditation, you know, and you can visualize the inhale as a color, exhale, or you can create a sound that goes in with the inhale and goes out with the exhale.
The weirder the sound, the more entertained the toddlers. So
you gotta multitask here.
Kill 2 birds with 1 stone, people. Okay.
We're talking about feeling exhausted as a new mother, and I'm sorry to break down to you, that's a feeling you're going to carry for a long time.
Possibly 18 to 72 years.
Within that range. You pick a number and just go with it. And I feel like, you know, not even relating only to motherhood, being in the body can be exhausting. Because we're concentrating so much energy. I'm going to get a little woo-woo on everybody. You're focusing so much energy, right? So everything is energy. So to transform energy in matter, there's a really high focus that needs to happen. And so we are under constant stress and pressure. And so a good way to counterbalance the exhaustion, and now we're referring specifically to, you know, being a new mom or a mother.
Deprived and...
Yes, we're going to bring in that fire energy into your body. So this is a very uplifting, recharging breath. We're going to use the same technique, but now Chelsea's just going to sit and recognize in her body where she feels exhausted, you know. And it may be in different parts of the body, and you just do that by sitting comfortably with yourself, and for a moment or two, just breathe long and deep and just see it. Where is it sitting on your body? Does it have a color, texture? And then when she feels ready, she's gonna plug in with her left thumb, her left nostril. Her other fingers are pointing up. And she's just breathing in and out through the right nostril. So what's happening here is that depending on what nostril you're breathing through, you're bringing a different quality of that side of the brain that it is connected. So remember, it goes up the spine, it crosses at the level of the eyebrow, and then it ends up here on your nostril. So the right side, the pingala, is associated with the sun energy. So it is infusing her with focus and alertness. And when she feels complete, she'll take a long, deep inhale through that right nostril and hold it for a moment, really activating what she just did. And she'll do that about 2 more times, releasing all the way and bringing it again, holding it, solidifying that new pattern. last time. And you hold it for as long as you're comfortable. It's a very charging breath. So if you feel like you have no more juice, you have nothing else to give, you do that breath and it'll really, it's like you plugged in your own battery for a moment and you just recharged. We want simple, practical, efficient. Kundalini yoga is the yoga of the householder.
Ooh.
So we're not acrobatic yogis, we're not doing a lot of flips and, different things, but we're really channeling certain things by angling our bodies in certain ways or pressuring our nostrils like we just did in certain ways. So we're working with stress, friction, pressure to really rebalance our whole system.
Beautiful and helpful because it's practical applications.
Yes.
For woo-woo shit.
So that breath work can be used before you get to your cup of coffee. If coffee is something that you drink, you can do your own coffee breathing.
What now?
You can use it as your own shot in the morning before you get out of bed.
Does this supercharge your coffee or in lieu of coffee?
Why don't you experiment and then tell us? Right? I don't drink coffee, so I wouldn't know, but
okay.
So you can experiment and then see if it'll supercharge it, or if it can be a substitute.
It all. God, she's sneaky. Let's go ahead and talk about our last major parental emotion. Frustration. Anybody frustrated out there?
Have you ever felt frustrated as a mother?
No.
I don't know what you're just talking about.
Assuming it were to happen, ever. How do we handle that? Because it's really hard to manage your feelings, multiple kids, the baby, the doctor's appointments, the shutdown, all of the things. Like, not get yourself into such a tizzy, or if you're already there, how to bring yourself down.
All right, so this is a really cool, fun little breath work we can do. So again, I want to reinforce this idea that we're developing a relationship with our emotions, right? With our states of being. So I don't want you to just sit down and start doing the breath. Like, take a few seconds to just be in touch with yourself. How often do we do this?
Not often
in our
enough.
daily basis? Like, do a check-in. That's self-care alone. A very helpful technique to help with frustration. Again, developing a relationship with frustration, because listen, we're gonna do breath work all of our lives. Might as well do it consciously. And we're only given a certain amount of breaths. It's the first thing you do when you arrive, the last thing you do before you leave. So use them wisely, right?
Totally.
And so this is a really simple one, very powerful. Again, no need for fancy equipment or to dress a certain way or to even be in a certain atmosphere. You can just take charge of your life right now at this moment and do it. So take a moment to be with yourself. Check in. What am I feeling? How am I feeling this frustration? How is it showing up in my life? And after you feel like you've recognized that state in you, notice if there's a spot in your body where it's residing, or if it's fluid, if it's moving to different places. And what we're going to do is a 4-stroke breath. So you're going to take 4 strokes all through the nose, and then 1 long exhale out through the nose. So it's gonna look like 4 sniffs.
So blow your nose first. This way.
That's always a great idea. Us yogis, we do a neti pot every morning.
If you're doing it in public, might we recommend blow your nose first? Okay.
Just always blow your nose first for any breath work, because then it'll help disconstrict. Is that even a word?
Forceful sniffs in.
Well, it doesn't need to be forceful, but they need to be precise in a way that when they end, right? Okay. So you're not going.
Right. Okay.
So you just.
So they have a beginning and an end.
Exactly.
And am I correct in assuming that we're supposed to be pulling from our?
I want you to try it out and let me know where you're pulling from.
All right.
So 4 in and 1 long out. The eyes again are closed. And you can use your first eye as an eye focus with your eyes closed. Try to make them equal parts. And find your rhythm. what we're doing with breath work is we're finding our rhythm. That's the yoga, is find where you operate. Because society is going to dictate rhythms on us. But once you come in contact with your own rhythm, then you're your own person. And being you is the best thing that you can do. I've said it before, but I keep saying that.
It reminds me of that hitched cry, that hitched breathing that we have, or that our children have when they've had a really big release. You know, sort of, yeah, it's that one.
So we're emulating things. I'm glad you noticed that, because a lot of times that release, what we were talking about before, the body's innate ability to know what needs to be done, but we suppress it half the time because we think we have to go through the conscious mind to do it. Right. Children know. Just notice your children when they encounter frustration or when they encounter anger, fear, happiness. How does the body operate and how does the body cope with it?
Right.
And we should get cues from that. So
what an interesting reflection on sort of maybe the way a lot of us were parented or tend to parent, which is to sort of encourage our children in those moments to shut it down, put it away, make it stop, do it somewhere else. I don't want to hear it. It's too much. Knock it off. And now here we are in our geriatric years trying to recover a sense of our body.
I'm not geriatric.
To recover a sense of what it means to be in touch with our bodies, so that this idea you give us of moving in the moment, just letting it be, acknowledging it, naming it, and then letting it move through you and moving it through you in an active way, and how that really reflects how the best of parenting works, where you can hold space for a child who's having a tantrum in the middle of the supermarket or whatever the situation might be.
Absolutely. So we're learning, right? Because I think most of us are learning to reparent ourselves in that way, and inviting emotions, which is very different from what we've been used to doing. So again, as you learn how to have a relationship with your emotions, not only you're modeling that, but you're also learning how to hold space for your child to have a relationship with theirs, right? So in a society where we're told to shut up, don't cry, it's not a big deal, all of that, we have an epidemic of substance abuse and addiction and numbing. And the world needs now people who can fully feel, so we can move beyond these paradigms, beyond this old way of being, because we are full beings and complete individuals. So we need to fully express who we are in a safe way, so we can just move on into the next level of our unfolding,
Just being so clear that we are trying to reclaim our sovereignty, teach our children to not lose their sense of sovereignty, and with lactation and the ability to feed and keep your child alive without the help of any external forces, what that does to bring sovereignty into your mind and your consciousness, and what a beautiful connection and bridge that we've been able to make here.
Yes, and knowing that you have it in you to be able to deal with all these situations, and really reclaiming that power. And then once you do it, as you were saying, once you've reclaimed that enough, then it becomes your MO, your modus operandi, where you're just kind of going through that versus falling into subconscious or unconscious ways of being. So you're bringing awareness, you're bringing clarity, and you're choosing to deal with it.
If you can feel it, you can heal it. So this is us giving an opportunity to ourselves to feel it, to heal it, and then to go have a little tequila, maybe. Or take some deep breaths, because you're not going to need the tequila, because now you got all these drinks in your back pocket. I'm still going to have the tequila. We are going to be putting together a graphic of sorts that will be a free printable. So if you go ahead, head on over to www.orobaby.com, subscribe to our email list, and we will send you a link to this printable where you can maybe make some copies of this basic information, stick it everywhere. It'll be a little bit easier for you to access and easier to remember.
Mail to your friends.
Put it everywhere. I have a great idea. Everybody print them and just put them everywhere. everywhere. This is
Sprinkle it.
This is so good for
This is
moms.
good for life.
It's good for dads. It's good for kids. It's good
Share
for people
it.
who are stressed out about pandemics. It is
Everything.
good for everything.
Yes.
You can find the amazing Liz B on Instagram at sadhana_diaries. We will be including all of that in the show notes. Lots of amazing breath work there for every kind of person and situation. So if you're feeling like you need more of this, head over there and connect with her.
Yes.
We will be having her back for a couple other fun
We have
TED
more in
Talks.
store, right?
Lots more in store. Thank you.
Thank you. I love you.